Good evening, everyone. Aussie Dude 25 is back and live. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you guys are well. I'm doing fantastic this Saturday evening, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic evening as well. So, guys, tonight's review is based on a fantastic film early released this year, based on the arcade game Rampage. Yes, the film is called Rampage. The actual film is based on the arcade game that was released back in 1986. So, way before I was born, so I have no idea what it's about. But yeah, apparently it's one of the popular games in the late 80s. So yeah, guys, let's get on with it, really. I'm going to get straight into the plot and everything. So if you guys haven't watched Rampage yet, please do not hinder any spoilers, because I'm going to go through the spoilers now. So yeah, guys, just to let you know, so basically the fantastic film is directed by Brad Payton, who's done familiar works in early 2000s. This film is starring two of the biggest stars in movie stardom at the moment. Dwayne Johnson, as we all know, aka The Rock, who's famous for many films such as San Andreas, Journey, Fast and Furious, obviously playing Agent Hobbs, and also Skyscraper was one of his new films coming on later out this year, which is fantastic. And obviously Miami Harris, who's famous for playing Moneypenny in the latest Bond film starring Daniel Craig, and also playing, I believe, if I remember correctly, she was in the Pirates of the Caribbean film, playing the Ocean Goddess. So yeah, long story short, based on Rampage, it's all based on a gorilla called George. He's a rare albino gorilla. But the way the story starts off, basically, there's a space station called Athenia 1, which is owned by a genetic manipulation company called Energy. Or Energize, or Energy. I think it's Energy with an E, so it's a little bit different how they pronounce it. There's a professor on there who has canisters of their research. However, due to the spaceship being damaged, some subjects destroyed the subjects destroyed some ship, so some form of a rat, I think, some because they were genetically mutating animals up there. So basically, the professor was ordered by CEO Claire to retrieve the canisters that actually contain a pathogen which can alter the genes of any particular animal. However, I will tell you the catch in that in a minute, so I'll let you guys know. So eventually what happens is the professor manages to escape from the space station. However, due to re-entry, the escape pod actually explodes, but then the canisters, the three of them that had all the pathogens inside, ended up as crash into the United States, including the Everglades, a forest in Wyoming, and eventually where George's habitat is in San Diego Sanctuary. So basically what happens is when the debris crashes, the three canisters are still intact. However, the pathogens, which is the gene therapy that they have inside, basically one's consumed by an American crocodile, another one by a fox, or a grey wolf as they called it. I think it was a grey wolf, yep. And also George, the rare albino gorilla at the San Diego Sanctuary. So yeah, just to let you guys know. At this point, obviously Dwayne Johnson comes in. He's a primatologist, so basically he studies it's basically the subject of studying gorillas, apes in their natural habitat, how to look after them, how they live, how they eat, what their daily routine is. So that's where he works at the San Diego Sanctuary at this point. So he actually befriended George when he was a very, very young gorilla at this point, because basically he was part of the US Marine Special Forces that deal with hunting poachers at the time. Obviously, law against poaching is illegal, and actually he was part of that unit. He actually found George and decided to look after him when he was a young albino gorilla. He apparently, from what he said, was the last one of his kind. At this point, he communicates with George using gestures or sign language, and when he tries to do the respect sign, he ends up swearing it with the middle finger, which is quite funny. It's like, so it just shows George shows Davis that who he plays, Dwayne Johnson. He shows he's got a sense of humour, saying respect, middle finger. That's what it is basically. So at one of the night, obviously, as we all know, one of the canisters lands in George's habitat, and George consumes it. He starts to feel rough, and eventually he becomes a little bit angry, starts to worry, starts to get very frustrated. At the next day, at this point, George grows a little bit larger and becomes more aggressive. So at this point, Davis is contacted by Dr. Kate Cadwell, played by Miami Harris, who actually created the pathogen through rewrite genes, basically. Originally, the story behind the canisters was basically Kate Cadwell was actually a professor that was using, who unfortunately her brother had an illness. I can't remember what the disease was. Basically, she was rewriting the pathogen to help, use it as a cure for diseases. However, Energy, the company itself, wanted to use it as a biological weapon. However, at this point, when the company hired her, when she found out what was going on and tried to still destroy the research, Energy or the CEO decided to set the professor up, and then she ended up being sent to prison, unfortunately, at this point. When George is discovered he's getting bigger, he's at one point he's become 7 foot. The next day he's at 9'5". So blimey, he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously the cage is getting smaller. George goes on a rampage, and basically they had to shoot him down by the US Army. Someone called Agent Russell turns up, and basically decides, you know what, we need to take the doctor and the paleontologist with us. And basically what happens is when George is in a plane, he's completely knocked out by so many darts and everything after he's had his rampage. So at this point, going back to Chicago, where Energy's office is, Claire uses a transmitter which all the animals can hear. So at this point, the wolf, the crocodile, and the wolf which Claire tried to capture, unfortunately killed all her mercenaries. So basically, at this point, they would kill. Obviously, the only way she wanted to get because all the canisters are now empty, to get the rewrite DNA, she used a transmitter which only the animals can hear, which would lure them to Chicago. At this point, the crocodile is on its way, which we didn't know about till you see it under the water, and also the wolf can hear it as well. George starts to wake up after hearing the noise of the transmitter and decides to go on a rampage in the airplane. He manages to defeat most of the... At this point, he's probably about 12, 13 feet. He's still growing. He's becoming more aggressive. At this point, he manages to defeat the US Army, and obviously knocks out Agent Marshall. And then, obviously, with Davis and Capel, they're very fully strapped in, prepared to fall out the plane just in case it crashes. At this point, Kate then tells Davis that the only way to stop George and the other animals was to steal a counter serum, which they hope brings the animals back to normal size and obviously stops their aggression. But then when they get to the offices at Energy, Claire reveals that the CEO of the company reveals that the serum only eliminates the animal's aggression, does not revert them back to their normal growth size. So that's a bad thing. So George is still fully going, but at a certain point, apparently she does say that they do stop growing at one point. However, the aggression is the only thing that stops. At this point, Kate climbs the tower, the professor, and Claire follows her. But however, when George climbs the tower to destroy the actual transmitter, he decides to eat Claire and one of the vials. So George has already got the cure inside him once he's eaten Claire. Yeah, unfortunately, the CEO dies. Oh well, done. At this point, another Agent Russell wakes up from his being knocked out, and one of the other associates, Brett, who was working with Claire, I think it's her brother if I remember correctly, he takes a laptop of incriminating evidence that covers up Energy's mistakes and everything. However, when Brett tries to run away, he's crushed by debris. At this point, after the vial has been eaten by George, George goes back to normal state. So basically, he recognises Davis, he's got his respect back for him, and then Davis explains in sign language, we got to defeat the other two before they destroyed the city, and also evacuate the other people, I can't say the word. Civilians, that's the word, thank you very much. So that was it really. So Davis and George stay behind both to fight. He's with a grenade launcher or knockout gas, where George is fighting the crocodile at many points. At this point, George easily defeats the wolf. However, the crocodile is his major foe due to the fact that he's probably, I think, twice the size, if I remember correctly. So basically, George stops the crocodile in the end by piercing its eye out, and basically, with a massive metal pole, and decides to kill it straight away before the US military drops an atom bomb to destroy the whole of Chicago. After the battle is won, George and Davis decide, you know what? Davis believed George was dead, but he wasn't. So basically, he pretended to die, and he mentions to Kate again at the end of the film. He's got a wicked sense of humour, saying, "Ha ha, I've got you." Ha ha ha. Gives him the middle finger again, swearing, but said, "I got you bad this time. This is the biggest joke." And Davis said, "I'm going to get you back." That's it. And after that, they clear the debris and decide they got to find George a new home, and they start to evacuate other civilians. So yeah, the film's about an hour and 40 minutes long. It's a little bit different. Based on an arcade game, it's in the history of films that have done arcade games, I mean, there's been many failures, to be honest, and there's been many successful ones as well. For example, you've had one of the failure ones was obviously the arcade game original was Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins, and also you've had other films like they try to think what they try to do really, because I know later on they're starting to make the Sonic the Hedgehog film soon, but I don't know how they're promoting it. So obviously I know they got the voice actor, so it's going to be an animated film, I believe. I don't think it's going to be real life. But other films that I failed, I'd probably say was obviously trying to think of other ones. Hasn't been many. I mean, yeah, Mortal Kombat, that was one of them. Mortal Kombat did one or two films, but did so many games. But it's one of the greatest games still around. But apart from that, I mean, many other games, for example, like Resident Evil's come off really well. You've had Hitman's come off really well. They've done quite a few. They've done about two films now on Hitman. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games that have turned into movies. Some of them have been successful. Some of them haven't been successful. So there is one point I'm actually going to look at some of these films, and I will go back over them again. So yeah, Aussie Dude 25 scale 1 to 10 with Rampage. I'll probably say I'll give it a 5 or 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. I wasn't very sure about it. I mean, I like the energy, I like the enthusiasm. I thought it was funny in some aspects, but it's more of a funny film. But I don't know. Based on an arcade game, I don't know. I wasn't quite sure. That's my opinion. I mean, there was a few things where it didn't make sense. Obviously, then Rampage came into it with George, and I remember I have seen some of the arcade game of it on YouTube. However, I don't know, it just wasn't for me, and that's why I said 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. So that's my personal review. Yeah, guys, my next review is actually going to be based on something fantastic, which we all know about, and you know what? I'm actually going to do a double bill of it, based on before the careers of Adam Sandler, before he became a lot bigger. This is one of the original comedians who've done them all. And you know, we all know him very, very well, Mr. Jim Carrey. So the 2 reviews I'm going to be doing on is on The Mask, going back to 1991, the year I was born. And also one of the best films I've ever seen, still one of the funniest films, Bruce Almighty, when he plays God. So yeah, guys, keep in touch. Yes, and guys, also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Aussie Dude 25. All my latest reviews will be on there soon, so I'm uploading more of them as soon as possible. But yeah, guys, if you have any more requests, please let me know. Have a great evening. See you soon. Bye.